Hey guys, Jackson here from Emerald Investment. Thanks for tuning in today. We've been doing a few blogs on how to do business in Nicaragua, and today we're joined with Bryan from García Bodán. Welcome, Bryan.
Hey Jackson, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and the firm.
Absolutely. Well, I'm Bryan Mendieta. I'm attorney associate at the Tola office of García Bodán, and we specialize in corporate law and also real estate law.
Tell us a little bit about the process in Nicaragua. What makes it easy at the moment for people investing in Nicaragua in terms of coming to do business here?
Absolutely. Well, besides offering beautiful natural attractions, of course, Nicaragua also offers a combination of low operation cost and also rapidly growing economy.
Have you seen like a increase in people doing business here over the last couple of years? Like, what's the current state at the moment for investment?
Absolutely. We're seeing a growing economy and rapidly process, and our economy system is really friendly for investment. So a lot of industries like tourism are growing really fast in the past few years.
You guys have got an office here in Tola. Over the last couple of years, you've seen this area. I know San Juan, you've always had an office there. In Tola here, it's starting to get a lot more people coming through here.
Absolutely. We have seen a big development in the whole tourism and real estate economies here, and there is a new wave of clients. They're really anxious to start business in Nicaragua because they are seeing the whole new branch of opportunities that we have.
Expats are allowed to own businesses. How does it work with being, not being a resident or being a resident? What sort of status do I need to have to operate a business here?
Okay, so you will have a few options. If you do not have a residency, you can start a company, and it will require a more formal registration process, but you will need at least 2 investors. If you do have a residency, you can request your own personal tax ID that we know as Brook.
And so what are the different types of businesses? So if you're saying if I'm not a residency, I can join with someone with another for a company. I need someone who is a resident to be part of that company, or what are the different sort of types of companies that are available, or types of structures, corporate setups?
Okay, got it. So if you preferred to do a company, as I said, it will require a more formal registration process and also ongoing maintenance in accountant and legal side. You will need at least two people to join the company, and it is not necessary that one of those shareholders are residency. You can also grant a general POH to a Nicaraguan person, and that will be the representative in the public institutions. The other way, if you're not a resident in Nicaragua, and if you want to request your personal tax ID, you can do so. However, you will have unlimited liability.
What are they called? Because I know that they're called different things here. Like the sole provider is a quota fija. The other, what are the different levels, or what are they called? The different types of structures.
Yeah, as you said, the first one will be the sole proprietorship. That's the one in which you request your personal tax ID and you manage the whole business. And then you have the partnership, in which you can involve at least 2 people. You can sign a contract, we call it a joint venture contract, and then you manage the business between the 2 of them. However, the liability will be divided between all the parties on the contract. Then you have the corporation, and that's the one in which you will need to go through an attorney and make some articles of incorporation, go through a registration process on the public record, and then the tax office. And also, if the investor already has a foreign company in another country, you can request a branch office here. So it will be just an extension of your main company outside Nicaragua.
And so for those 4 different types, only one of them you need to have a residency. That's the first one, which is the sole proprietor, the quota fia. The rest of them you can partner up with someone here, or how does that work? You can have a lawyer being the power of attorney.
Yeah, that's correct. Only in the sole proprietorship you will need to have the residency, because the tax ID will be on your name and you will need to represent business in the public institutions. For the other ones, the partnership, corporation, and branch office, you do not need to have a residency. Your passport and having also a local attorney with a POA will be enough for the whole registration process.
And who does the process for all this? The attorney, or people can do it themselves? Like, what's recommended for people investing? They sort of find someone to help them do it, or it's easy to do it yourself?
I will always recommend looking for national advisors, and they will know the ins and outs of going through the whole incorporation process. And actually, for the corporation and the branch office, you will require a notary to hold the deeds and make the whole contract process and registration process, not only on the public records, but also on the tax office. And if the business required, it will also need to go through a specific license, depending of the economic activity that you do.
Okay, so you set up the structure, you decide on the structure, you then need to register that structure in the public registry, and then you go to the tax office, which is called the DGI, and then after that you get your tax ID, which is your RUC number, and then you have to go and apply for the licenses once you have that RUC number.
So yeah, that's right. You will need to apply for the municipal license, and if the industry requires specific permits, you will also need to go to different public institutions. For example, if you are interested in the tourism sector or hotel sector, you will need to also request a license to sell alcohol. So yes, you might need to require for additional permits.
How long does that sort of process from when you go to the registry to say, hey, I'm sort of wanting to do this structure, to the point where you're getting your licenses to operate your business? Like, what's the, is it different for the different types of businesses, or is it generally the same across the board?
It is definitely different depending on the business. So the first step of the process and will be going through the notary and getting the paperwork together, going through the registration process on the public records, and then the tax office. That process will take around 1 month just to obtain your deed full registry and your tax ID. From that point, then you will need to request the additional permits depending on the business. And that timeline will depend again on the specific activity that you're holding. For example, getting license for selling alcohol or specific activities for tourism industry won't take that long as special license for exchange of resources or energy activities. So those ones are more specialized and could take more time.
You're able to do this sort of process before you invest in the property or real estate, or it can be done at the same time? I guess what is it recommended to start the business first and then put the asset into the business, or you can do it at the same time with the process of finding the real estate?
Okay, that's a good question. Actually, you can of course go through the whole negotiation and due diligence real estate process at the same time that you incorporate the company. However, I will always recommend to finish the company registration process, get a tax ID, and then acquire the real estate inside of the business that you already incorporate. It will be best so you don't pay double transfer taxes or you don't wait more than needed for the registration process.
So the best to do it. Are you able to do maybe promise of sale or some kind of, you lock the deal in and then part of that deal is that it gets transferred when the business is ready, or is that it's hard to do that?
No, that's actually a really common option. See, a really common option. A lot of people, as you said, lock the deal by promise to sell with the faculty of just getting the purchase rights to a future company. It's the rights. So you lock the deal, you can do the due diligence and the whole negotiation process while you're getting into the company registration process. So once you have your tax ID and all your company's paper together, then you're able to just finalize the real estate purchase process.
Okay, so you might save a couple of months there if you're sort of doing them in at the same time. That sounds great. What about banking and tax obligations from the company? I guess starting with banking, when can you start a bank account for the company so that we can, someone can start sending money down for investment? How does it work with timeline with that?
Okay, so as soon as you have your tax ID, you can start going to the national banks and request each to open your bank account. They will request additional documentation. For example, back on La Fice, if the company is in a just registered, they will require a projection of your future income. So they will have some numbers there, and they will of course require some additional paperwork of the show for there is. However, at that point, you should already have all that code registered in your possession. So you should be able to request a bank account as soon as you end your registration and tax ID process.
So that's for giving them future income. But what about for just the capital investment in the beginning? So I buy something and I want to build the actual infrastructure there. There is this initial capital investment. You need a lawyer to put that into the books of the company, or how does that work? Like they need documentation, some kind of documentation for you to be able to send that sort of initial large chunk of money down. How does that process work?
Absolutely. You will not only need a lawyer, but you will also need an accountant to help you to show that income on books. And they will need, again, some paperwork from the legal side showing that all the money, showing the origin of funds. And also in the accountant side, they will need to see how that money is reflected on the accountant books. And together, those will be the supports that you need to open a new bank account in Nicaragua.
And that money, that original money coming in, won't be taxed because it's sort of capital investment coming in to start the business. I guess that's sort of a little bit of a trick on it's tricky sometimes because sending money internationally, the banks are sometimes asking what it's for. Is it income, or is it part of just the investment in the company itself?
That's right. At that moment, you should already have your RG Plus Living Corporation, or if needed, also your joint venture contract, and both will show the goal of the company or also the goal of the investors, and that will be the necessary proof for the bank agency.
So the different tax obligations for the different companies, what is the general local tax? I mean, we don't have to go in too much into the accounting side of things, but generally speaking, the different tax obligations for the different companies.
Yeah, well, regarding taxes, Nicaragua has a specific obligations for all business. So you will be required to file regular tax returns, and there are different kind of taxes depending on your business and also in your income level. So you will need to work with an accountant that is familiar with local tax laws, because that's crucial to avoid any unexpected liabilities.
I get a lot of questions about, is this a commercial zone or is this a residential zone? Is it different in different areas, or how does that sort of work?
Well, Nicaragua offers a variety of options when it comes to commercial real estate. So, for instance, if your business will develop on, for example, finance, and Managua is becoming a business center, so you might want to establish in Managua. And for tourism, you will have a few options. And as you mentioned at the beginning, we will have San Juan del Sur and also Tola. Those are top tourism destinations in the country. And also, if you want to develop any kind of ecotourism or hotel, you will also have Granada on their own. Those have a unique advantage and are really beautiful cities too.
And are there any, I guess, different types of incentives from the government in terms of for the different industries? I know that the energy sector has some incentives. The tourism, there has been some incentives to get foreign investment in. Can you touch on those?
Recently, we have a new law that provides a new branch of tax benefits for foreign investments in the country. And also in the energy part, as you said, we have another benefit too. So there is a really big variety of options here that will always call new investors to establish their business here in the country.
And those incentives, there's a little bit more, I guess, paperwork and due diligence that needs to be done before you would, I guess, invest, because it takes a while to get those incentives approved. So is it, sometimes is it worth, depending on how big your investment is, depending on whether you might want to go for that incentive or not?
That's totally right. So, well, in the tourism industry, and you will need to find a request, and we will need to have your whole tourism project already clear, and you will need to show the path that you're going. You need to show also how many employers you will have, and that time investment and that resource investment should also be linked to, as you said, the benefits that you will have. In some cases, for small businesses, going through the whole registration and the whole request process might take more time and resources than the benefits that they will have. So it is really good to touch bases with a local attorney and a local accountant, so they will help you to understand the benefits that you might have and the time and resources that you will need to invest to get at those benefits, so you will have all the tools to make the final decision.
Sometimes people come in, they might not know exactly the type of business they're looking. They know more or less, but if you're sort of don't really have a clear picture, it's hard to then get those benefits, because they're very particular about what they want to see. If you've got a larger investment, you're very clear on what you're doing. You've got a bit more capacity up front to get that planning done. It might be great for that type of person. But there's some people that come in, they're a little bit, well, I don't really know, and it might not be the best for them. They can, as they go, create their investment, their dream, but they might not have had that vision in the beginning, so they can't really put all that down on paper to get that investment. So we've definitely seen a few of different, both sides of the story, which is great.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really important to highlight. This is really, really specific, and the public institutions will need to have a plan with every single step of the whole project. So as you said, if you're not cleared on how to develop your business, well, you might want to first sit down and, take decisions on the whole project before requesting these benefits.
One of the questions we always get is, how is it navigating the business culture here, and just people come from foreign country, they come here and they want to understand just dealing with the local business and regulatory offices. Can you touch a little bit on the differences or the challenges that some of your clients have told to you that might help other people making a decision?
Absolutely. Well, business in Nicaragua is very much relationship driven. And a key point here will be patience, because the processes might take a little bit longer than you expect to and that you're used to. And also, personal connections and networking is a high value. That's part of our culture and that's part of how we do business. So if a foreign investor is really interested in getting a new business in Nicaragua, respecting the local customs and showing genuine interest in the culture can put you apart from others and will certainly help you to stand out.
What sort of things, like making an effort to speak the language? What sort of things can people do to sort of help that transition?
It's really easy, actually. For sure, you do not need to be fluent in Spanish to get a business here, but at least have a few key conversations and just a few words will make any Nicaraguan happy to have a meeting with you. And that's another point. Nicaraguan usually likes to have face-to-face meetings. That's another part of our culture. So if you can take the time to go to the place, meet this person, you can be sure that you're starting with a good foot a new business relationship, and that will be great for the business.
Yeah, patience is definitely key. It takes time to navigate those, and ends up becoming easier the longer you're here. All right, before we go today, we had a few people send in a few questions to us. Bryan, what's one piece of advice you give an expat starting a business in Nicaragua?
Well, my number one tip is to partner with local professionals. At the García Bodán, we understand the ins and outs of the local regulations. And as we spoke at the beginning, a lawyer could help you on the registration process. But we understand that a good lawyer will also help you with smoothing transactions and making connections with people. So that will be my first advice.
How do people choose local advisors? Like, what's some of the tips for them to know who to sort of trust and who to sort of talk to?
Certainly for foreign investments, and finding reliable local staff and reliable partners, local partners, is another challenge. So there is some hiring agencies that could help you with at least getting reliable staff, and also with contacting local advisors like the lawyers and accountants. You can need the network, and there is a wide amount of people here in the country, and I mean foreign investors that have already been living in Nicaragua for long years. They can share their experience with you, and for sure they will put you in touch with the people that help them to be where they are.
Any other topics or anything you want to share with the listeners today?
Doing business in Nicaragua can be rewarding and is for sure a challenging experience, but we will be more than happy to help you. And it will be good to be well informed and having the right supports in the country. So if you have any questions, please feel free to contact any of us and we will be with you.
All right, thanks for joining us today, and cheers for all the viewers out there. Remember to subscribe and send any questions, emails in. And thanks, Bryan. Thanks for your time today.
Absolutely.
Cheers, guys. Have a good one. Thanks.